I want to talk about the witch craze in early modern Europe. And I have a lot of information, lots of statistics. I'm going to just fly through it. So early modern is kind of, for non-historians, one of those hidden words that we're like, what does that mean? The early modern period is roughly like the mid to late 1400s to the late 1700s, and the onset of it is like spawned by the beginning of the Renaissance in Italy, Columbus's voyage, the beginnings of the scientific revolution. It sounds scary, right? Witches? The idea of a witch started in the elite classes of Europe when they started to worry about devil worship and people bringing ideas from the plague to them. So if you're worried about if you have Ebola or not, let's talk about the Black Death first, because it's a little more important. It started in 1347-ish to 1352. 25 million people died in Europe, and it spread a huge panic in Europe about the outside evils in the world. And the Pope started to worry about how this was affecting his Europe. And so the Inquisition and things that fueled that later, Pope Innocent VIII issued a papal bill condemning witchcraft, and he had two guys named Kramer and, oh my gosh, I can't find his name on this note card that had 8,000 words on it. Springer, that is it. They wrote a book called The Hammer of the Witches, Malleus Maleficarum, and it basically laid out the identifying factors of witch. So they spotted witches, women who were odd, practicing magic, if they failed herbal remedies, if they were ugly or reclusive. They also sought out their accomplices. So the way that they did this was to kind of create a central idea of what a witch was, which these publications identified. And people like me probably would have been a target because they were mostly women. Literature at the time cautioned that if you had a specific shade of red hair, you were probably a vampire or an evildoer, so you could go to court, right here. If you were a single woman or a widow with no men to take care of you, you also were a target. If you had the mark of the devil, you were a target. Let's talk about statistics really fast. The British Isles had about 5,000 trials and only 2,000 executions. In Europe in general, in Eastern Europe, there were 7,000 trials, 2,000 executions, and roughly 75 to 80% of those were women. Some outliers and exceptions to the rule. In Germany, there were about 50,000 accused or 20,000 executions. That makes up for about half of the overall witchcraft phenomenon. In France, over half of those were men. In Iceland, 90%. In Estonia, 60%. In Finland, 50%. But other than that, they were mostly women. At the height of the hunt, witches were blamed for everything. If a cow died, if there was a bad crop, if a man was impotent, there was surely a witch to blame. So really nobody was safe. The witch hunt kind of declined, really starting in the mid-1500s. Even Martin Luther cited that it was kind of on the outgo. There were a bunch of factors, mostly like tougher judicial processes, a regulation of local justice, standards of evidence. Before that, there were no standards of evidence. So if someone was like, I think she's a witch, I heard her calling in the wilderness at night to the devil, people were like, okay, she's done. They had a better legal representation, a changing in beliefs. The church kind of shifted its beliefs away from malevolent evil and kind of started to denounce that as a thing that didn't really exist. But also socioeconomic changes. There were less of the lower class, and so people started to become a little more educated and believe in scientific reasoning. We're skipping the other continents of witches. People always talk about Salem. The thing about Salem is that there were only 19 people executed versus 40,000 in Europe, so it's such a blip on the radar screen. And it also happened about 10 years after the last executed witch in England. Totally not even worth talking about. So if we're talking about the overall impact of the witch hunt, really they changed a bunch of legislation, mostly protecting really women's rights, but also rights in general of people in Europe for false accusations, and requiring better evidence in trials. Today there are witches. If you're worried about the Wiccan movement, anything in the neo-pagan movement, Strigarian movement in Italy, those are all movements that have happened since the 1920s. So they're not even that old. So if we learn anything, it's that there's huge discrepancies in numbers in the scholarship. The estimations of women and men who died in the witch hunts in Europe range anywhere from 40,000 all the way to 1 million. So really consider your sources. And other than that, I guess we've learned that witches are kind of scary, but maybe not as scary as giving a 5-minute presentation